G'day, I'm Dr. Philip Button from the Food Entrepreneurship Academy. I'm here in Hobart, Tasmania at this fabulous Airbnb in Sandy Bay, where I'm going to be talking to you a bit about protein and how we can address the protein issues of the world in the coming decade. So I've already spoken about in a previous video about food security in general. But what I want to do now is go through, in particular protein and how we can address supply of protein in countries that have real food security issues and projected booming population growth during the up until 2100. So, really, if you think about it, protein is arguably the most challenging nutrient to obtain, though, in adequate quantities. Yet, it really provides long-term benefits, unlike carbohydrates and, to a lesser extent, fats, which are more for shorter-term energy benefit. So, elements like increased muscle mass through appropriate protein intake contributes to, and is really likely to address longer term issues of people being able to physically work more effectively and be important contributors in society. While daily intake of carbohydrates for immediate energy consumption is of course of undisputable importance, the benefits of building and indeed retaining muscle mass are significant. And especially if you think of areas of agriculture societies, yet there's really several challenges associated with adequate protein intake, which is more likely to make it restrictive for those that need higher amounts. So animal protein sources, particularly meat, are environmentally unsustainable, really, and are wasteful from the perspective of the valuable, natural resources used in their production. Plant proteins, while they're much easier to intensively produce and using just a fraction of the resources, such as land and water, of animal-based protein sources, offer poorer quality protein and a lower proportion of protein in food products. Thus, it's not unusual for excessive carbohydrate consumption to occur, and this can be actually required in certain amounts to satisfy daily protein requirements. So an exception to this, would probably be fermented foods, which are of course another product of microbiology, like single-celled protein is. However, what we really think is the answer might lie in the consumption of unicellular microorganisms, either bacteria or yeast. So these typically have a much higher protein proportion and can be produced in a particularly intensive and efficient manner, with very little resources in comparison to traditional food production. Furthermore, production facilities could be located in urban areas, which is certainly a trend in agriculture today, thus reducing resources spent on transportation, reducing food miles. So in addition, if consumers gain acceptance of genetically modified organisms, yes, it's a big if, but if it happens, to the extent where they would be happy to consume genetically modified microorganisms as protein sources, then these bacteria or yeast could be further enhanced, genetically modified, to provide value-added nutrition in a whole host of areas of nutrition deficiency, important in a particularly local context. So even without being genetically modified, though, the benefits of obtaining protein from such an environmentally sustainable source is really an attractive proposition. So this is already done to an extent with dried nutritional yeast flakes, which are widely available, but it's certainly not mainstream and not in a form that could make it a primary source of protein. So this approach of single-celled protein, though, is especially important in societies, and we're talking about really societies or cultures that are still very physical and, based on physical labor, as I've mentioned. So, and that tends to be the lower to middle income countries, and those tend to be the ones with the biggest, boom in population growth projected, such as those in Africa. And so if we could, fast track research in this area, fast track commercialization of single cell protein sources, so that these people, in the coming decades could have, a good source of, high quality protein, reliable protein in the urban areas of these major, what will be huge urban agglomerations in Africa, then that will really go, a substantial way to addressing, the projected food insecurity and escalating poverty that could really happen in these major cities of Africa. So yeah, think about it, and especially genetically modified organisms, if people were really okay with that, well, it would really address so many other issues. And, really, again, I just use that word, it's going to save the world. It's sure there are other ways to save the world, but, this is one which can, surely address these issues of food insecurity with the projected boom in population growth, and nutritionally feeding and ensuring, an adequate muscle mass, an adequate, nutrition, and an adequate energy intake for these, in particular these people in these cities of Africa. So thanks very much. I'm Dr. Philip Button from the Food Entrepreneurship Academy, loving Hobart, Tasmania. I'll see you around next time. Thanks very much and take care. Bye.